Made a video not too long ago saying how much I got from watching Jordan Peterson back in 2017. I also heard from a lot of people who don't like some of his views, and I'm sorry if that offended anybody, but I still got to talk about him because, for one thing, I got 5 times as many views on that video as I did on any others, and so I'm going to milk it while I can. If you want to see more like that, then go ahead and subscribe, like the video, share it, make a comment. All those things are, of course, helpful. But one of the things that he says that I absolutely disagree with is that you cannot get your oughts from your ises. A lot of philosophers talk about the is-ought dichotomy and that it's impossible to figure out what you should do in life based on the facts of reality. He basically says you don't really know what the facts of reality are. Whenever your facts get challenged, like you're betrayed or 9/11, then all of a sudden you're just confused. And that there's something deep and mysterious in the subconscious that make it impossible for us to get our ises from our oughts. And I would say that's absolutely untrue. I actually find what objectivist philosophers say about this issue to be more lined up with the Bible, even though objectivists are generally atheists. And I would counter Peterson's argument there by saying you absolutely can get your ises, your oughts from your ises. Meaning, you can figure out a moral code, you can figure out what to do by what are the facts of reality. And a major fact of reality is that we are created in the image of God to glorify God, and that we were created to glorify God by living our lives as humans. And so, if that's the case, then all of our moral values are going to come from the sacredness of life. And because we live according to the sacredness of life, particularly human life, then we must look around and perceive facts because we need to live. So we need to make choices based on the desire to live. And we need to make good choices. So we need accurate facts. Now, we don't always get accurate facts, but that doesn't change the fact that we still have to use what facts we have to form our judgments and make our choices. And so figure out how we're going to behave so that we can live. You would need a moral code even if you lived by yourself on an island. I honestly can't remember if I've said this in a video, but if I have, I'm going to say it again. I was watching the reality show Alone, and there's always, in almost every episode, what happens is they put these 10 survivalists, people that are actually really good at survival skills, and they test them and everything, and then they pick 10 people and they put them out in a remote, dangerous place that's difficult to get food. Some of them take place in British Columbia, Vancouver Island. There's bears, there's cougars. As winter comes on during the season, there is scarcity of food. And what always happens is there is a moment where one of the contestants is starving. They haven't eaten anything substantial for 6 days. They've been eating grass or something like really small. And they're fishing. And they've been fishing every day, all day, hunting, trapping, and they've not caught anything. And then they catch a fish. And they get so excited and they start to reel the fish in and pull it in and pull it in, and when they get that fish, they go crazy with joy and excitement, and they thank God and they thank the fish and they thank whoever they want to be thankful to, and they understand something profound. I'm going to live for at least a few more days. I might even make it to the end of this show and win $1 million. So why does that happen? And at the same time, In the very same situation, sometimes they are starving for 6 days. They catch a fish on the line, they're pulling it in, they get right up to the shore, and they lose the thing. And what happens? They don't go, oh, well, it's all the same to me whether I eat or not. No, they cry, they look sad, they get downtrodden. Sometimes they quit. Sometimes that's when they tap out and go home, because this is moving them away from life and towards death. This is very profound. So we want to live, we're put on this earth to live, and we go around looking for ways to live. Now, life is more than food. Maslow was somewhat right that there probably is a hierarchy of needs and values. You want to get your food, you want to get your safety, you want to get your shelter. But on that show, you see it all the time. People get those things and then they get bored or lonely, and that's what takes them out. So you got relational needs, you got all kinds of values that you have to get. And I would say being a great human, meaning being a great image bearer of God, is to understand this and to know that we have values based on God's call to live and not die. That's why he tells Adam and Eve right away it's about life and death. That's why he tells the Israelites, hey, following my ways are about life and death. I've discussed this many times and I'll continue to discuss it. But this is a major problem with Peterson, is that he doesn't think that you can get your values from facts. And this is why he actually flirts with religion, ironically, because he thinks those things have to be revealed. And I'm a Christian, so I believe in revelation, but I believe that all revelation is actually going to line up with what actually is possible to know. That's why Paul says in Romans 1 that what can be known about God is actually visible in creation. He says that. Go read Romans chapter 1. Because when God reveals things, he reveals the true nature of what's already there and could technically be observed. Now, why do so many people have a problem with this? It's because we have so many conflicting values. We have so many conflicting facts. We have true facts and then we have untrue facts. And it's because we're completely unfocused. We're not as focused as those people. Why do people go on that show, or why do people go out into survival situations? It's because they love the primitive. And the reason they love the primitive is that it just makes sense. Here's the deal. Your complicated life actually makes just as much sense as the life of a survivalist alone on an island with 10 or 20 items. You have to find the values. You have to find a way to reach your values that pertain to life. All your values should be life-giving. What brings you life? Food brings you life. Good, healthy food brings you life. But what else? Loving relationships bring you life. Interesting and fun hobbies bring you life. And you need to categorize those things in order of importance. God goes at the top because he is the most crucial fact. And we value him and we glorify him because he's the most glorious thing. And then there's a crucial fact that you have been given responsibility of your life. And so you've got to eat and you've got to pursue values, got to pursue life. And why do the people on the show cheer when they get the fish? Why do they go into victory pose? And why do they cry in tears of joy? And then the other extreme, why do they cry tears of depression when they don't get life? Because joy and life go together, and sadness and death go together. And so when you are grieving because something that you value actually was lost, that's right to do. You should grieve those things, but you should also think big picture and understand grief can only go to a certain point. And then you get focused on, okay, what do I still have? What are the facts of reality? If you lose a loved one, that's horrible. You grieve it. But then you realize, but I still have dozens of other loved ones. Even if I have just one other loved one, then I have relational values that can be met, and I need to pour into those relationships. And so that's where I would disagree. I would say absolutely morals come from facts. So if life is the most important, crucial value, then the moral of not murdering becomes a universal. And surely enough, as soon as God reveals his nature and reveals himself, he says, "Thou shalt not kill." Why? Because life is precious. He created life and he created us to live. So if you value life, you will not kill another because you will not want another killing you. He says, "Thou shalt not steal." Why? Because your stuff is part of your life, and you get life from the things that you own. You use the things that you own to increase your life and further your life. They are things that you value according to the principle of life. So Peterson is dead wrong about this, that you can't establish morals from facts. You absolutely can. And he would just say, well, but you don't know what the facts are. But you do know what some of the facts are. But you're wrong sometime. But that doesn't matter. What matters is once you find out you're wrong, you accept that, and then you go figure out what's right, and then you continue to go and live. The more you focus on this work, and the more that you do this, the more you will find your joy lining up with your pursuit of life, and your sorrow lining up with when you're going towards death. And then all of a sudden your emotions become somewhat reliable. But it starts with logic. It actually starts with facts. It actually starts with perceiving facts. If you are looking at it wrong because you were trained to look at it wrong, and I guarantee you were trained to look at it wrong at some point, I know I was, then you kind of realize at one point your emotions are not lining up with the facts. So what are the facts and why is that? And then you retrain yourself, you reprogram yourself. It's like a computer and you're the programmer. Your emotions are like the software. So that's amazing. That means we have so much more control over our life and our happiness. So then you go to something else that Peterson says, which is don't try to be happy, search for meaning. But I would say, right, but you got to put those two things together, because when you find meaning, you actually find happiness, because you start to line things up. You line up what's true and important to you, the things you value, the things you would act to gain and keep, with what's meaningful and with your emotions, which means you're going to have joy when you're doing good things and you're pursuing life. And that is incredible. And that is a life that glorifies God. Too often Christians think that we just have to be suffering. It's somehow wrong if we're not suffering, that we're somehow being flippant about life, or we must not be obeying God because God only ever calls us to suffer and struggle. And that's just not true. It really is not true. Sometimes we're called to suffer. Sometimes we're given a season of life that is going to cause some suffering. Sometimes in the quest for life, we face some suffering, and that's just how it is. And that's part of being on this fallen planet. I would add one other thing. Part of salvation, part of repentance and turning to God is seeing where you have been false and living according to untruth, and repenting of that, telling God, I'm sorry for that, and then turning towards the truth. Also, we've got this fallen nature that is mysteriously always wanting to go towards death. And so part of repentance and turning to Christ is to say, I'm sorry for that. I turn away from death and I turn toward life. I turn away from falsehood and I turn toward facts and truth. And that's what it means to pursue God and to pursue your life according to God. That's all I'm going to say for today. But I want you to have a wonderful day. I want you to have a wonderful life. I want you to get focused. I want you to line up your values in order of actual importance. And I want you to have great, great joy. I also would love to talk to you if you'd like to discuss this with me so that I can learn what real people think about this content and what would be helpful to real people in the articles, books, and videos that I write and make. Then sign up at my Calendly link that's in the description. And also, you can just go to christianman.me and look around. The site is at this moment somewhat under construction, but there's enough there for you to spend hours and hours and hours reading articles if you like that kind of thing. And if you like the kinds of things I've been talking about, go there. Otherwise, subscribe, like, share, comment. Have a great day.